season outlook that I had, the 4th-and-1 season outlook. This year, actually, this is the first one that I'm doing. So, excuse if this is extremely terrible and it doesn't work, or it's really bad. Without further ado, this year I finished 10-6, first in the AFC West, and I actually advanced all the way to the AFC Championship game, where I got my butt whooped by the Bengals, who ended up losing the Super Bowl to the Dallas Cowboys, who've won, I think that was their second in 3 years. They won the first year and then this year, I believe. Don't remember who won year 2. Anyways, so I'll just start by just quickly running through what my schedule was like. So, I opened against the Ravens. They were the CPU at the time. Won that. Beat my division rival. Got this game, I remember, I just got my ass kicked against the Broncos. 5-20, that was bad. Beat a CPU team. Lost to a rival. Came back, beat the Broncos. And then this game was difficult here against the Cardinals. I was up in this game. I was winning, I believe it was like by 2 scores. Then we desynced and just simmed. Next few games here were misses, so I won't get into those. Won my final 3 games. That's basically what sparked my run here, which, thank God. Getting to the playoffs now. I ended up winning the wild card. They were not computer. They ended up dropping out of the league. But I had 4 interceptions and just won fairly convincingly. Derek Carr had a solid game. I think he had like 380 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Then in the divisional round, I won fairly convincingly. I did a pretty good job. Forced some key turnovers. Brock Osweiler played due to an injury, and Derek Carr just went off. I think he had 4 touchdowns, no picks. And then this game, I'll just quickly show the stats. I just got dominated in every aspect of the game. I had under a 50, no, I had around a 50. Yeah, 57 completion percentage, 231, 2-2. I was getting somewhere on the ground, but when you're down big, you can't really do much. You have to air it out. Just Tyreek Hill had a good game, just wasn't a good game. So on my season stats, it was pretty decent season. You know, 10-6 isn't the greatest, but it's not bad at all, especially when you make it to the second best team in the AFC. So Derek Carr had a really good game, a really good year. 32 touchdowns, 15 picks, almost 4,400 yards. That's pretty damn good. Last year, I think I had like 30 interceptions with him, so cut the turnovers down in half, which is pretty damn good. You know, Murray, I think, actually was the 3rd leading rusher in the NFL, behind maybe David Johnson in Arizona, and then Ezekiel Elliott. I think he had like 1,800 rushing and receiving yards. Dude's got a 99 speed, so it's pretty difficult to stop that. But Murray had himself a solid year. He's coming back too. He'll be better than ever next year, especially with that yards, or the average per rush there, that 3.9. I got to get that up. Started getting better towards the end of the year, and especially in the playoffs. In the playoffs, I think he averaged like 5.4, 5.5. So he actually had a really, really good postseason. Had about 3 or 4 touchdowns. So I just got to improve the run game a little bit more. Receiving, I spread the ball out fairly well. You know, Cooper and Cameron both had around the same catches. Cooper obviously was the top target, but I like to utilize a dual tight end set. Croft was hurt quite a bit of the year, plus those sim games in the middle didn't really get to use. He was only hurt 3 games, but still, you know, you'd like to utilize my tight ends more. Croft played a pretty big role in the playoffs. I had to convert to a lot more 11 personnel sets, 3 receivers, you know, 1 tight end, 1 running back, just due to not being really able to run the frickin' ball, because I can't run the ball in Madden, apparently. But, you know, Kenny Stills, solid year. Slot receiver, he's my number 3. Clinton Sharp, that's my deep post, my deep comebacks. He runs a lot of my deep routes. Even though his average is really small, he catches screens too. He's either going deep or it's a screen. And deep routes to him is where I normally throw picks. Cooper runs everything, but I like to utilize a lot of those play action, multiple tight ends, get them going on corners, in routes, all that good stuff. Blocking, sacks. This is my rookie that I got. He was pretty solid. Wagner, yeah, I'll get into them in the offseason stuff. Manti Te'o over here, the 100, leading the team in tackles and interceptions. I had a pretty solid year using him, so I'm fairly happy with his production. He just can't seem to get off a block to save his life. It's like he thinks, I don't know what he thinks. He just something. It's pretty ridiculous that none of my linebackers seem to be able to block shed. And this block shed's like an 83, 84. And his power and finesse moves aren't horrible for an inside backer. Khalil Mack, I switched to a 3-4 in the offseason. Only got 6.5 sacks. I dropped him into coverage quite a bit this year, so that might be why. But he got 2 picks, had some, deflections. He was pretty good in coverage, dropped quite a bit of interceptions. So I don't know. You end up using him more as a rusher, subbing him in as a D end in certain packages, so he is always rushing. But I use the inside backer, Teo or Damian Wilson. And when he drops, I don't know. My pass rush wasn't that great. I gotta fix it. Damian Wilson's my project that I acquired from Dallas 2 off seasons ago. He's been working up these last 2 years. Started this year as the number 2 inside backer. Fairly athletic, with me being a Minnesota fan in terms of the Gophers, watched him quite a bit growing up, so he was a pretty good player there, and now he's making pretty big plays for me. Had himself a solid year. He'll be looking to increase his role next year a little more. I didn't use him a ton on heavy rush situations. If I wanted to run that, was it the 2-4 double A, I wouldn't have him line up in there just because I don't want him head up over, in A gap, head up over the center, whatever it is, when he's supposed to be rushing or engaging in quick contact, because he's not that kind of guy. My secondary was pretty bad. Not that good. I need to improve that. My defense was kind of my weak suit. David Emerson's pretty good. He had a really solid, year in terms of, didn't really get burned a ton, but he I'm just trying to think of the word for it. He wasn't great. Wasn't bad, wasn't great. So he was above average. I'll take it. Kicking game was awful because I am notorious for pushing the button too early and shanking it right, or thinking that I'd be pushing it too early and then shanking it left. I can't get it down. Plus, I had some blocked kicks. Those aren't... so I guess 3 of my field goals were blocked, so I really only missed technically 3. That's not awful. Then I missed 3 extra points. So 6 misses, 9 if you include blocks. Punting, I don't care. Returners, I gotta upgrade in these guys. These guys were just back there because I just threw them back there. They weren't starters, whatever. I actually gotta find myself a true returner in free agency. That's on the top of my list after defense. James White was a solid punt returner. He'll probably stick to those duties. He's a good, punt returner, third down back kind of guy. That's what I use him for. So, after going through all that, I'm just going to kind of talk about what I've done so far. I've released a few guys. I had negative $4 million in cap space before I made this video. I made a few moves to get myself, you can see him right there. Moved a guy to fullback. I cut David Cobb, cut Avius League, cut a punter that I signed from the practice squad, released Isaiah Crowell, Jimmy's with Alawale, released Bruce Irvin, John Filisanio, Marcus Cannon, cut some of my veteran guys that aren't really going to be in the plans, are going to be regressing, especially like Bruce Irvin. I think I saved like $10 million almost by cutting him. And I like Bruce Irvin, and I'm going to try and bring him back, I think. But just for what he was doing as an outside pass rusher, I didn't really care for it. Overall was dropping, all of his rates were dropping, so I can find a better guy who's either younger and cheaper to do what he did, or even get an improvement. So I'd rather do that. In this league, we get 3 re-signs plus 1 franchise tag. I'm not going to use a tag just because I don't really have the money for it. But with the guys I've already re-signed, no one big. I re-signed Damian Wilson, re-signed a rookie tackle, undrafted free agent who I progressed to a 76, 77 overall. Started at a 72, I think. Just he had a high strength and decent blocking. It's just his awareness was like garbage. I think it was like a 52. So I bumped that up to like a 75. So now he's good. He'll probably actually end up starting at a guard spot this year while I work him up. So I'm pretty happy with that. I also re-signed, can't remember exactly who it was. I have it right here. But so with these guys here now, going while I look for that, these guys are guys I'm probably not even gonna really bring back. Rick Wagner, sorry about that, was a guy that I just signed, 1-year deal, fill-in right tackle, ended up getting benched halfway through the year for my rookie right tackle, moved him from left guard to right tackle, and then inserted Marcus Cannon because his strength was higher and his impact was higher, I believe. And I value strength in linemen. I've come to find out that if you have a 90 strength lineman but 2 worse pass blocking or run blocking, whatever it is, the higher strength lineman typically does good if their pass blocks are fairly similar. That's just what I've encountered. So I figured that I'd stick on that script and go that. And ultimately my run game improved once I did that week 15. So I'm pretty happy with that decision. So I used my re-signs on... Oh, it was Amari Cooper. How could I forget that? That's a pretty significant re-sign too. But shoot, oh well. Ben Heaney, he was a project guy, that 86 speed, I thought he could be really good, never caught on. Whistler Hankton was a guy who was actually my nickel corner this year. I really want to bring him back, but I've already used my 3 re-signs, and I don't think I have the cap space to franchise tag a corner. So that's whatever. I'll go after him in free agency. I have him marked down. He's got pretty good stats. I mean, 84 zone, 89 speed. The agility acceleration's bad, so I was going to consider moving him to a safety. He's 6'1", 213. That's a pretty good safety. And I might do that in the offseason, but I have good safeties, so that's why I didn't do it this year. TJ Carey, his stuff was garbage. He was my 4th corner, 5th corner, my return specialist this year. He's done. That 73 zone, 65 man, like live linebackers that have better cover skills than that. So no. DeMarco Kirkland, he had a not a solid year. He played 2 games. Actually played okay in those 2 games. He got in some garbage time when I benched my starters. He's a guy I want to bring back, but again, that agility acceleration is so low that I don't know if I really want him out there playing corner. I mean, I don't value those too high, but that just means that his change of direction is not going to be good because I play heavy zone. I look for zone corners, but I don't know. Brandon Harris is done. Brandon Doughty we require 3 quarterbacks here. He was just a random pickup. Might go after him if I can get him for cheap. That's about it for that. So for what I plan to do this offseason is I'll just kind of scroll through my roster here. Quarterbacks, I'm set. Derek Carr, great year. You know, Connor Cook, Michigan State he's the backup. I'm not really going to focus on a backup. I'm just going to get a third string. Not a huge need of mine. I do need to get a third one, so I will get a third one unless I draft one. So I'll decide looking at the quarterbacks if I want to draft one or just sign a cheap one to a 2-year, $1 million a year contract, really cheap. I'll see. Running backs, I got Murray. He's my number one. He's good. White's my third down back. So how I go with my backs, I carry 4. I carry my main back. I typically look for a one-cut style, just a guy who can make that one cut and go. I prefer power, but Murray's got it all. He's got a little bit of everything, which I don't know why his overall so low, but see, he's got the 83 chucking, that's good, 91 carrying, 85, so all of his stuff's solid. So that's my ideal back right there. If that trucking was like an 85 or higher, 89 or higher, you know, up there, that's where I'd prefer. I just want good trucking and a solid juke move. That's really all, and then carrying. I can deal with anything else. So Murray's good. He's my bell cow back that's going to carry the load. James White's a good back for my third down, scat back, you know, receiving back. I probably had, we'll just double check real quick. I think he had more receiving yards than he did rushing yards. 235 rush. Oh, never mind. Well, it seemed like more. He had 2 touchdowns, that's why. Never mind. Ignore that. Dumbass comment there. Anyways, he'll be used more in the pass game. I use Murray a lot, too. Murray's a good pass back, I think. I've worked up his catching. He's a good receiving back. So, those are my 2 there. How I run with the 4 is I always get my main back, whoever that is, a third down receiving back. I get a power back. And then my third one is either another... It's basically one of those 3 of whichever one I feel is vital for me that season. This season, it might be another receiving back in case White goes down. Okay, so for fullback, he was my tight end last year. He was just a project on the practice squad. Flipped him over to fullback. Because as a tight end, this dude had a 78 speed, 79 agility, 88 acceleration. He's got actually a 79 carrying, 78 impact, and you know his blocking is pretty good. And I like big fullbacks, you know, 6'4", 260. That's a good fullback for me. So I threw him over there, figuring he could help out in the run game. Receivers, I'm set. You know, I got my 3. I'm gonna get a 4th receiver, just so if one of those guys go down, I don't have a bunch of 60 overall scrubs. Even though Deion Cash isn't bad. I mean, you know, 83 catching, 75 catching traffic, 91 speed, 90 jumping. You know, that's solid for a 5th. But I'm not confident if one of those guys are to go down for him stepping up to either play my 2 or my 3. I don't feel confident. Same with Spruce. Spruce was pretty decent in terms of playing at the 5th receiver. You know, he's a good, you know, possession slot receiver. He'd probably play before Cash at my number 3. And then Trey Rubio, another basically white slot receiver. As you can tell, I'm a Patriots fan where I still somehow try to get white slot receivers, hoping I get the next Welker, Edelman, Amendola, Hogan. Never works out. Tight ends, Jordan Cameron, I signed him in the first offseason, and I've regretted it ever since. This dude's been a bum because he's regressed every year fairly shittily, and I mean, his stats are okay since I got him. You know, this is the first year I had him, so I'm going to have him year 3, 5 touchdowns, 700 yards, 900 yards, and 6 touchdowns this year. So look at that contract, 6.7 this year, 8.03 next year. I'm stuck with him this year because of that cap space. He'll be a solid 2 tight end. I'm going to try and pick up another one. I mean, these guys are solid, but Tyler Kroft is going to be the number 1 tight end this year, by far. He's more athletic, their catching's about the same, and he's a better blocker. So, I don't know. I like Nicholas, so maybe even Cameron bumps down to the 3, just because Nicholas is a really good blocking tight end. You know, 70 run block. So that's solid. I'll keep probably these 3. I might try and add a 4th, see if I can dump Nicholas. But so offensive line, this is my dilemma here on if I keep Kelsey at left tackle or move him to a guard. with Tripp and Mace. These three guys are all going to start at some point, or going to be starting on the line. So they're all solid. Houston Tripp, he's got a weak strength, but that superstar development, good blockings, good awareness, pretty quick. So he can, do pretty good in the screen game, I think. He gets out there and gets downfield quick, which is good for a lineman because they just love to run past, the corners and everything and just run to the sideline. But he was a solid pickup. I got him in the 3rd round. So next, I don't have a left guard. That's whatever, I got to figure that out. Rodney Hudson, I'm attempting to trade. I like him and I could keep him, but it's just the cap space, and I'd rather not cut him. I'd rather get something from him. Plus, he's 30, last year of his contract, not going to re-sign him. Just like to, just get him for something cheap, 2nd, 3rd round. Just get him for something. Someone else can make better use of him than me. And I'd like to get a little bit of return on my investment. Gabe Jackson, clear-cut starter, re-signed him. Oh, wait, no. Gabe Jackson, I think, was my re-sign this year. And then Amari Cooper's last year. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And then, I got some good guards here. These guys are all I work up my line, and I focus trained O-line running backs this year, so I got some pretty good depth there. Wagner, Kendall, Rich Bosworth. I got some of these guys will be cut because I got too many, but it's whatever. This was my first. I had 2 top 10 picks last year. I had a really bad year last year. I traded away Aldon Smith, got a 1st round pick. They had a pretty bad year too. So I had pick 6 and pick 9 or 10. So I ended up getting the old lineman I wanted got taken the pick before me, so I took this guy, Carrington Culberson. He had a really good year. He's a beast. He's a stud. I'm working up those finesse moves now. And working up his moves just so he'll shed some blocks. He had a pretty good year. The backup is Jihad Ward. This is his final year here. Probably not going to pursue him, and I don't really want to trade him just because I like that depth on the D-line. So those guys are good. My right end, Mario Edwards Jr., I re-signed him 2 years ago. He's having a good year. He'll be my starter. I got good backups, so I'm set on my D-ends. I run a 3-4, so those are good D-ends. I cut Big Dan Williams this year. This is the guy I took pick 10. He's got quick development, so he's pretty solid. I had a pretty good draft last year. So, 82 strength, that's not what I like for my nose tackle. I'm considering bumping him out to a D-end, but I have Mario Edwards Jr., so I'm really not going to keep him there. But he's just quick. He can get off blocks, and I like him there. He's got a quickness that most nose guards in a 3-4 defense don't have. But he can get, punked around a little bit on the O-line by a strong center. And then my backup, Justin Ellis. I'm going to get one more. I like to carry 3 D tackles, 2 D ends of each, or just 4 total. So that's what I like to carry even with my 3-4, where most, you see a lot of 3-4 teams don't really carry 2 nose guards. I carry 3 just because I do have one package that I will occasionally put 2 in. Plus, actually, I believe I'm going to convert to a hybrid. Use New England's default playbook. Right now, I currently have Shaq Calhoun projected as the number 1 guy. He's not going to be the number 1 guy. I'm going to get someone. So, I'm not going with Shaq Calhoun. Nah, I'm not doing that. He sucks. Manti Te'o, Damian Wilson. Those are my 2 guys. If I could improve my linebackers, I would. They did okay for me, but they do hurt. It's tough for them to get off blocks at time. Teo's got 72 power, 81 block shed, with the 1 being boosted up right now, 56 finesse. So he can't really get off blocks, and he's not the fastest, but he's a hitter. So you're not going to really shed him, and especially in that 3-4, there's a lot of congestion in there with linebackers. So his athleticism gets trumped by the other 3 athletic linebackers that I have around him. Wilson, we've already kind of looked at him, so he's my faster guy. He's that cover guy. I'll user him in 3rd and long situations so I can get that range. Henny's gone, so Khalil Mack, obviously nothing really to say about him. He's a beast. And then Trent Murphy, he's that solid run stuffer. Come in and do a little bit of power rush moves. So I got pretty solid depth there. I have depth, just not elite players other than Khalil Mack. this was a huge area. I got my top 2 here. Emerson and then, whatever the hell, however I pronounce it, Veituit Donga Garrett. I signed him as a free agent. He was an undrafted rookie, so I picked him up. Pretty solid. I was pretty happy with how he played at my number 2 corner all year. Hankton, I'm going to try and bring back. Carey's gone. Harris is gone. Try and bring back Weston, Kirkland, all those guys. So I just got to improve. I got to get better at the potential. I could upgrade the number 2 spot, but I just got to get 2 more corners. I got to get 2 guys. Safety, I'm pretty happy with Eric Murray. I love Eric Murray, Golden Gopher. Saw him play a lot. Have season tickets there, so I have quite a bit of Gophers on my team. David Cobb I had, but I cut, so that hurt. I'm going to try and bring him back at a lower cost, but didn't want to touch that. Keyshawn Jarrett, I have him in when I go a lot of 3 safeties, because I go 3 safeties whenever I go nickel. Sometimes I'll have that third guy be a safety, just because I want that run support down there. So he's my third safety. Whenever safety goes down, he'll go in. Carl Joseph, I got good safeties. Safeties I don't have to worry about. Brock Reed and the Gopher is the second guy, so he's the 4th guy, the safeties. And this was another guy, ironically, that I drafted that was from Minnesota. So that's why I drafted him. I got him in like the 5th round. I don't know. I just want to check. 4th round pick. So, I like my safeties. They're good. They're athletic and they can get to the ball fast and they can hit. Eric Murray I've made into a hitter a little bit. I'm working on his zone now. I'm going to focus train the secondary next year. I focus train the front 7 this year with my 2 rookie D linemen, but I'm going to focus on the secondary, improve that, get my safeties good, and then get those corners working up. Patrick Murray, I signed him my first free agency year. He's all right. He's got a decent kick power, decent leg. I like him. I can't blame him for his misses because I just suck at kicking. I'm horrible. And then Brian Timmerman, he's a punter. My draft, so I got a 1st round pick 29. I picked 61 in the 2nd round. 2 3s from New England. I traded away Jalen Strong that I acquired from a 3rd round pick from Houston. So I focus trained receivers for 2 years, got him to an 81 overall, 80 overall. Contract was expiring, wanted $4.5 million a year. Shipped him over to New England for a 3rd and 5th. So I actually gained my value in New England. That guy's like MIA half the time. So he had a shit year. So I got 2 3s, 2 5s, and then the rest normal. I'm going to hopefully get Rodney Hudson for a 2nd, maybe a 3rd and a 4th. Just pick up some depth. Get some depth guys that aren't costing me too much against the cap, because I'm kind of in salary cap hell, unfortunately, because I was very noobish with my signings. Other than that, just looking at this here for the last bit, I don't really have a whole lot of people I want to get rid of, just because I don't want to lose them to big deals that someone else can provide. Might do a little bit of tinkering out of here, but other than that pretty much concludes it. I just got to spend my Coach XP that you see at the top right with the 6,125 XP. Other than that, I had a pretty good year. I'm going to hope to, not rebuilding. I'm just going to retool to go for another drive at the Super Bowl this year. I will be doing another one for my HPL season review. I'm in the AFC Championship for that game as well. Playing that tomorrow, Wednesday, March 15th at 9 a.m. Central Time. So I'll be doing that then, and hopefully I'm not making another one until I win the Super Bowl in that one. So I'll be making another one of these for a season preview and then an off-season recap, just to talk about the things I did. Oh, Drew Brees retired. So did Terrell Suggs, and so I'm just going to be busy this off-season here doing it. So thank you for tuning in, and have a great evening.